From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Governor Gina Raimondo's first budget focuses on programs to help spur job growth, including nearly $45 million in new economic development programs.
It's time to stop this cycle, stop this downward spiral, and put our state on an upward spiral of momentum fueled by economic growth.
Raimondo also boasts closing a near $200 million budget deficit without raising broad-based taxes, but that means cuts, and Medicaid is in the crosshairs. The details on those cuts remain murky. Now the proposal heads to the General Assembly.
I'm very pleased. However, the budget needs to be vetted. We have to look at the details, and we'll have further discussions.
This week, joining us in studio to discuss her first budget proposal, Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Joining me on the panel, as always, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Governor, welcome to the program. It's always good to have you here.
Good morning.
So we're taping this on a Friday morning. Just over 12 hours ago, you delivered that budget address, and I got to tell you, Ted and I are still digesting these numbers, but we obviously have a lot to talk about. And quite frankly, not all of the numbers in your budget are done cooking yet. You have $46 million in unspecified Medicaid cuts, $22 million in unspecified state personnel cuts. Is it responsible to leave such ambiguity in the budget? How are people supposed to think that this budget is done?
Well, when you have a chance to go through the budget, you'll see that they are not unspecified. The full $90 million of reductions in Medicaid are quite clearly laid out.
Then why do you need a working group?
Because, you know, this isn't about just cuts. This is about reinventing Medicaid. It's about restructuring Medicaid so we pay for value, not volume. I could have done all the cuts, but it isn't about cuts. It's about restructuring it so we give people better care, better outcomes, and over time, you know, it's not just cuts this year. If we deliver better care in a better way, keep people at home instead of going to a nursing home, keep people out of emergency rooms over and over again, you're going to see substantial savings over the long run and better care for our most vulnerable.
This would be, I believe, like $180 million in Medicaid cuts because there's a federal match for half that money. I mean, are you concerned about the impact that level of cuts is going to have on, you know, as you say, a lot of vulnerable people on that program?
Yes. You know, you're always concerned. When I've inherited a budget with a $200 million deficit and an economy that's on the ropes. So there are no easy decisions. These are very difficult decisions, and there's people's lives at stake, which is why we're going to have the working group to really fully vet the ideas to make sure we get it right. Here's what I would say. This isn't about cutting eligibility. This isn't about denying people health care coverage. It's about being smarter with the way we spend our money so that we can maintain high level of care, but in a more fiscally responsible way. You have to remember, Rhode Island has the second highest per enrollee cost of any state in the country, which is 60% higher than the national average. So we have to do a better job. It's just not sustainable.
What happens if April 30th comes, the deadline you've set, and your working group can't agree? You know, the hospitals don't want a rate cut, or the managed care people say they can't do it, and the nursing homes say something. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, as I say, there is a budget in now, and the General Assembly could pass the budget just the way it is. But I don't think that's going to happen. You know, we have the hospitals at the table, we have the unions at the table, we have the nursing homes at the table, and my message to them is be part of the solution. This has to happen. It's completely unsustainable. You know, we have to control the cost increase, and we have to do a better job of taking care of people. So I want to lead in innovation. There's not a state in the country that isn't struggling with this, and I want to be a leader. I want to get it right.
Someone who is very concerned about that is Virginia Burke. She's the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Healthcare Association. I want to bring up a quote that she gave to the Providence Journal in reaction to your budget. She said, "Nursing homes are doing exactly what she wants us to do. We are providing outstanding outcomes, and we are doing it at a very low cost. We hope that the budget recognizes that and protects the value we have in place because we are financially stressed and are not in a position to take further stress." Do you think that nursing homes are being run inefficiently? Are there cuts that can be made there?
I think some are and some aren't. You know, it's a spectrum. Many nursing homes are efficiently run and many could be run much better. I also think that nursing homes have to bear responsibility for care. So what am I talking about? You know, if people in a nursing home aren't turned over regularly enough and they have sores on their back, you know, we shouldn't have to pay for that. If people in nursing homes continue to fall and wind up in the emergency room, that adds cost and it's poor care. Also, not everyone wants to be in a nursing home. You know, I lived that with my dad before he passed. He did not want to go to a nursing home. And if we can do a better job providing for and paying for home care, we can keep people out of nursing homes. So Virginia and the nursing homes are at the table. We have several nursing home representatives at the table. So bring forward solutions. This, again, it's not, I could have taken a pen out and cut. But instead,
well,
we
you
said,
also know that probably wouldn't have made it through the legislative process if you did it that way.
Well, you know, maybe not. We do have a $200 million deficit, and in the past, the General Assembly has had to make cuts, tough cuts. I mean, these are budgetary realities. So what I would say to nursing homes and hospitals is come up with solutions. If you have a better idea, let's have it. Let's solve the problem together.
As Tim mentioned, another somewhat unspecified part of the budget, $22 million in personnel savings. A lot of people are going to hear that and think layoffs.
Yes.
I mean, what will those personnel savings actually be, and should state workers be worried?
Yes. No, they shouldn't be worried. So as I said last night, state workers in their last contract have received raises, and we intend to honor that contract and honor those raises. We intend to do this in the least disruptive way possible, including avoiding big layoffs. In the budget, I've asked for some tools to provide greater flexibility. Changes to longevity, which is bonuses that folks get for just working longer. Changes to some of the ways that personnel is done. And if we have a little more flexibility, I believe we can find that money in a fairly disruptive way. You also have to remember that's 2% of state payroll. So 20 million sounds like a big number, and it is, but it's an over $800 million personnel budget, and it's 2%. Having said that, what I said in my budget address is if the revenue estimates are better in May than they are in November, I'd like to see the General Assembly reduce that target.
Are you going to have to reopen union contracts to make some of those changes happen?
We're going to have to get to the table with the unions. I think there's a big possibly is the answer.
Okay.
I think there's a big opportunity in health care as well. The way the state provides health care for state employees is hasn't been looked at in a long time. There's not a lot of choice. There's a lot of opportunity around wellness. So my package around personnel reform and around all of this is just to modernize. You know, some of the way we do personnel in state government is very antiquated, and we need to modernize so we get the best and incentivize them.
What element of the budget for you is non-negotiable, that if it's removed, if it's tinkered with, you'll veto it or you won't sign it?
Well, you know, it's a little early to say that, and I think there's always room for tinkering and productive discussion. But it's a jobs budget. It is a bold jobs budget, and I want to see the budget passed with the economic development plan largely intact. You know, it's a comprehensive jobs plan, developing skills, making college affordable, investing in education, incentive packages to attract and retain businesses. We need that. We need that. This economy is on its knees, people are unemployed, and I want to see the jobs component passed.
There's a laundry list of different ideas and proposals. We'll never get close to all of them on this show in your economic development package. But if you had to pick one of those to highlight for the viewers today that you have the highest hopes for, that you have high hopes for, which of those proposals are you really excited about? I know it's hard to choose between, but
I like them all. I put them in the budget. You know, I just have to say this, which there is no one solution. I mean, that way of thinking, just we have to get beyond that. You know, there is no silver bullet. We have to invest in skills. I'm revamping the way we do job training.
He's not saying silver bullet, though. I think what Ted's asking is, what do you think is going to have the most impact?
What are you
of all
excited
of them?
about?
Yeah,
what do you
right.
think's innovative? What do you think's, you know?
Well, I do think we need it all. We absolutely need it all. But I would say that I am very excited. There's about the way that we're going to incentivize job growth. For example, there's one piece of the package which is what we're calling an anchor tax credit, which provides incentive for our largest employers, Electric Boat, CVS, Raytheon, or for anyone, to help us recruit their suppliers to Rhode Island.
So they would get a tax credit if they could bring in other companies in their supply chain back to Rhode Island?
Exactly, exactly. I think that's innovative. It challenges companies to be part of the solution, and it gets jobs here.
Have you talked to those companies? Do they have any interest in it, or just
Yes.
you think it'll work?
No, we've talked to them. They're interested in it. It benefits them. You know, for them to have their suppliers close to them is good for their business, and of course it benefits Rhode Island because it's new jobs. The biggest piece of the budget, and the thing I'm most excited about, we need to move towards advanced industries in Rhode Island. I mean, the brutal reality is we're not creating good middle class or high paying jobs. Most of the jobs Rhode Island's created in recent years have been lower wage jobs. And so there's a big package in there around, you know, paying back college loans for young people who stay here and work in innovation industries. There's an innovation initiative. We're providing tax incentives to incentivize companies that get research grants from the federal government. There's a big fund for the 195 development to really shot in the arm for Innovation Center.
$25 million, I believe.
$25 million. So if we do this right, 10 or 15 years from now, we will have underpinned our economy with an engine of growth in advanced industries, which is what Massachusetts has done, and will finally recover from losing all those manufacturing jobs.
To help pay for HealthSource Rhode Island, you're proposing a tax on even those who aren't in HealthSource, which is the state-run Obamacare. Do you think it's fair for people who aren't in HealthSource to have to subsidize it with this extra tax that you're proposing?
I do. So, you know, first of all, I believe every Rhode Islander deserves access to high-quality, affordable health care. The federal government has mandated Obamacare, and so the approach we're taking and what the budget proposes is to keep the exchange in Rhode Island, but to skinny down the budget so that running it in Rhode Island is no more expensive, and I think will be less expensive than giving it back to the federal government. And the way we are funding it is exactly the way the federal government would do it if we were to give the exchange back. So, you know, and frankly, it provides an incentive for the tax is on everyone who's eligible to use the exchange,
right.
And so we want to incentivize.
So you want
folks.
people to go into HealthSource?
Yeah, exactly. We want to incentivize folks to use the exchange.
Your budget is jobs, 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 though. Their criticism is that it's a tax increase on small businesses. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, well, again, first of all, it's a federal mandate, so we are complying. There's no way around this. We either run it here or we give it back to the federal government, and my proposal is the same. I think over time, keeping it in Rhode Island employs people in Rhode Island, and we have a better chance of being innovative to bring down the cost of health care. Also, you have to remember, this budget's a whole package. I propose phasing out the commercial sales tax on energy use. We propose changes to unemployment insurance to bring down the cost of unemployment insurance for businesses. We propose getting rid of the surcharge on outpatients. So overall, I think this is a great budget for small businesses.
We have to go to a commercial break, but before we go, you want to tax Taylor Swift's Westerly home, huh? Is that what I'm reading?
Yes, I do. I think...
How did you come up with that?
Well, how did we come up with it? We wanted to avoid broad-based taxes. We wanted to avoid any taxes that would hurt our economy. And folks that have the means to have multi-million-dollar second homes, they need to pitch in. Everyone needs to pitch in to get this economy back on track.
It's no secret that some of those people are your donors and have supported you. I can think of a few names. I won't say them on TV, but
Yeah.
have you spoken to any of them? Are they mad at you?
There's a few people that are not too happy about it, but by and large, the people I've talked to see it for what it is. It's part of an overall plan designed to get people back to work. It's a relatively modest assessment, and they want to do their part. You know, I'm asking everyone to do your part to play a role in the comeback. And if this budget passes, we're going to get this economy going. And we had to raise a little revenue in the face of a $200 million deficit. The majority of the way, 2/3 of the way we closed the budget was with cuts. So if you have to put a little assessment I think it's a good alternative.
Okay, we're overdue to take a break. We're going to do that now. When we come back, we're going to take a budget breather. A lot of important things to talk about, anything from the PARCC exam, Gordon Fox, to the PawSox. Stay with us. Our guest is Governor Gina Raimondo. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. To my right, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Our guest this week is Governor Gina Raimondo. Governor, a proposed bill at the General Assembly would give the ability for parents to have their kids opt out of the new PARCC exam. Would you sign it if it passes?
I haven't seen that precise bill, so I can't tell you. But here's what I think. Assessments are a good thing. You know, as a mom with 2 little kids in public school, I want to know how they're doing. Are they getting better?
Are they going to take the PARCC?
Yes, absolutely, and I would not opt them out. I think assessments are a good thing. So, and I know change is hard, but we're really letting down our kids if when someone finishes 3rd grade, they ought to be able to read like a 3rd grader, and they ought to, when they finish high school, we need to know they have the skills they need to be successful to go to college or get a job.
What do you make of this? What do you make of parents looking to opt their kids out? What does that say?
I do think that there's a lot of fear and a lot of confusion, and it's a change, and there is a concern that we're over-testing kids, and I do share that concern. You know, we test too much, and it takes away from instruction time. But smart assessments are a good thing, because you need to know, are they learning, are they improving, so you can take action if they're not.
So the Pawtucket Red Sox owners, new owners, as we all now know, want to move to Providence. Jim Skeffington, one of the co-owners, was on this show 2 weeks ago. He said they'll seek free land on the old 195 and perhaps a state-guaranteed lease to help subsidize it. Are you open to either of those ideas or both?
I need to see the details. I'm open to anything that creates jobs and stimulates economic development. I'm not open to yet again being taken advantage of by another baseball deal. So this could be a terrific deal, and I certainly am open to seeing it. I know many of the owners are from Rhode Island, so you know, I'm very open. You know, it'd be wonderful it could happen, but it's got to be a right deal for Rhode Island. I'm a watchdog for the taxpayers, and if there's a deal to be had that's good for the people and that creates jobs and stimulates 195, then that's a good thing to do.
In the wake of the Gordon Fox charges, there's a renewed push to put the teeth back into the Ethics Commission by allowing them to police lawmakers, I guess you could say. Do you support this move? Should the General Assembly make this a priority?
Yes, I do think the General Assembly should make this a priority, and I've long supported, you know, more ethics oversight over the General Assembly. People deserve honest public servants. We work for the people. I will say my own view is the best way to convince the public that their public servants are honest is by getting things done. And thus far, I have worked very well with the General Assembly leadership, the Speaker and Senate President. They want to do the right thing and work together to get people back to work. And I look forward to a productive partnership with them to solve problems and restore people's faith in government by showing them that we can work together and get things done.
Gordon Fox, I mean, he admitted to taking a bribe in exchange for giving a liquor license. Do you regret you supported him and you campaigned for him in 2012 when he was in a tough re-election race? I mean, was that an error of judgment on your part to back Gordon Fox?
Well, obviously, I'm extremely disappointed. I now do regret it. I didn't know then what I know now. It's horrible. It's unacceptable. And it just, again, it just weakens people's faith in government. But this is a great example. You say, should we have new rules? There were rules. He broke the rules. There were clear rules, and he stepped over the line, and he broke the law, and it's not right, and people deserve better.
And the Democratic Party empowered him in Rhode Island. He became perhaps the most powerful politician in the state, someone willing to take $52,000, he admits, for a liquor license. I mean, can you blame people for not having a lot of trust when that's someone the political elites in the state elevated?
You cannot blame people. You can't blame people. It's exactly why people are losing faith in government, which is why I'm like I say, I'm eager to work with the General Assembly now in partnership to get this budget passed, to get a comprehensive jobs plan going. And the only way we're going to convince people they should trust us is to get things done for them and to do it honestly. It's not about taking care of ourselves. It's about taking care of the people.
I want to pivot back to the budget that you proposed. Again, we're taping this on a Friday morning, just a little over 12 hours ago. You have a website up, for people to dissect the budget themselves. It's openbudget.ri.gov. And it's filled with charts and graphs, so Ted's weekend is going to be nice and full to look at that. But I'm wondering, when I was looking at it, will this data change when it gets through the House Finance Committee? This is what it looks like right now on the screen. Or will it just be your proposal that lives up there the entire time?
I think our intention is to update it as it goes. You know, the whole point of producing this and putting it out is to make it's a step towards making the budget process more transparent. And I want people to engage. This is your money. This is the taxpayer dollar. So go online, see how we're spending it, and hold us accountable. It's our desire to adjust it as we go so people have a sense of what's going on. You know, it's the people's budget. What's going on with the budget?
The trial on the pension law that you put together finally is set to start in Superior Court on April 20th. You've said repeatedly you're still interested in a settlement with union leaders, reviving perhaps the one that failed last year. Have you had any new discussions about a settlement since becoming governor, and what's the status on those discussions if you're having them?
Well, the primary focus now is getting ready for trial. We have only a few weeks to get ready for an unbelievably complex trial. The state has a strong case. I think we'll prevail, and we're focused on that. You know, in any pre-trial setting, there's always a constant dialogue to try to settle, so that continues, but there's no formal mediation process, and the primary focus is let's get ready to win the trial.
How likely would you say a settlement is at this point?
I don't know. It's always hard to say. You know, as trial gets closer, you like to think settlement is more likely, but this is an important thing for the state to get right, and certainly I'm not interested in anything that hurts the state or that weakens the pension system.
You're proposing refinancing some $80 million in state debt, and this stuff can be enormously complicated, but a lot of people have refinanced their mortgages, so you get some idea, and lower interest rates are always good. But is there a risk you're hedging your bets on the future here, that the state will have to make larger payments down the road by refinancing it now? Because you want the money up front, right? That's why you're doing this.
Yes, exactly. In this case, what we're doing is we are refinancing to take advantage of lower rates from, say, a 5% rate to a 2.5% rate. But it's part of a whole plan. So the risk, which I would not take, is to do the refinancing and then plug a budget hole. That's why we've balanced the budget through cuts. This money is going to be used specifically for economic development, and that's specifically outlined in the budget. A school building authority to rebuild schools, the 195 work, a small business loan fund. And it's really an investment in economic growth as part of an overall plan. So in this case, no, I don't think there is that risk because we need to kickstart our economy. We need to get some things going to get that cycle going again.
But you understand my question, just so I can get it. When you restructure this debt, is it restructured so that you have to either you make the loan longer and you stretch it out, you know, you refinance a 30-year with a house, or you have to make larger payments at the end?
Yes.
Right? So which one is it?
It's a little bit of both. So we have, not to get too much into the weeds, but we've restructured it so that it's what they call net present value positive, which means no extra cost to the state. No extra cost to the state. It doesn't meaningfully lengthen our repayment. There are some additional costs in the out years, but they're very modest.
And what you're saying is you're hoping to turn the economy around. Right. So in a way, you are placing a bet that you're investing this money, grow the economy, and then you can pay those bonds back at the higher rate later. Correct? Not a higher interest rate, but a higher payment.
Interest rate. No, that's exactly right.
Okay.
It is absolutely a plan to create jobs. I am firmly of the view that if we can create good middle class jobs, we'll be in great shape and anything's possible. And if we can't, nothing else matters.
This is such a great idea. Why didn't you do it when you were treasurer?
Because I wasn't the governor. I mean, you need, this is a whole plan. You need to, I thought about it as treasurer, but this is a gubernatorial decision, and then you have to work with the General Assembly to appropriate the money. That's the key thing here. You know, once upon a time we got some money back with the tobacco bond, and we frittered it away. If we had taken that tobacco bond and invested it then to create jobs, instead of plugging a budget hole, imagine where we'd be today.
We have about a minute left in the program, so just taking a step back, you've been governor for a little over 2 months now. What's been the biggest adjustment for you?
I think probably the public aspect of it.
Well, you've been a public figure for a while.
It's different. It's
How?
different now. Everywhere I go, I'm recognized. My kids are recognized. It's a whole new magnitude. And on a personal level, I just feel responsible for everybody. You know, I feel when you're treasurer, you worry about the pensions. Now it's everything. It's the economy. It's health care. I went to Work Mall the other day to read to some kids, and I stood in line for almost an hour because people just came up to me to tell me about their problems. Who's out of work? Who can't afford their mortgage? I feel responsible to take care of everybody.
Governor Gina Raimondo, thank you very much for joining us on the program this week. If you missed any of her budget proposal, you can find it on WPRI.com. A great analysis from Ted Nesi and Dan McGowan on there. I'm Tim White for Ted Nesi. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.